guys, and welcome back to another video, and today we are with the Season 1 finale of Viewer Battles. It is me, the host, the new alien overlord. Let's see what happens in this episode. We start with China, who decides to take Taiwan, and they released a province up there that's pretty Turkish. And they send an alliance proposal to all the other communist nations, but that will be postponed until the end of the war. The Majapahit and his gang decides to do some damage to the Philippines, trying to make them starve out long term. This will go pretty effective. They also want other nations to fight with their sides so that they would switch. They built up a pretty strong navy beforehand as well, so we will see how it goes with them. We now go over to Finland, who is starting a propaganda campaign against the Baltics, and they're trying to get their war support raised. They will start to extract resources, and they're fending off the border with Sweden and Norway, and they even go and manage to go and do some battling there, and they gain a little bit of territory. We go over to Mexico, who is activating the Mexican Imperium. They're getting the Imperial Peso. The Imperial Peso is like a huge economic miracle for them. Their military action, they're going to plunge into Central America and also into the Caribbean, and they would manage to knock out all the Caribbean and most of Central America. Pretty cool. Since Samoa is a part of the Mexican Imperium, they would start to attack Ethiopia. Not too much to cover there. We go over to Germany, which is pretty weak, and their cyber program will happen, and huge cyber attacks occur, and they really unstabilize the red team, which is pretty cool. They also try to convince Brazil, India, and Turkey to leave the Great War. We also go over to Egypt, who is explaining why the PAA isn't getting a new president. They will wait until the end of the war to decide who's the president. They're going to send their troops across the border. They prepare for an offensive, which will take place in a little bit. The Argentinians go and invade Uruguay and partway into Chile, cutting them off. Pretty cool thing. Thanks, Argentina. We go over to Russia, who is fortifying their borders. Not much else to say. They're aligning with Japan, but we'll see about that at the end of the war. They're introducing a war tax so that they can get more funding. Now on to the Eastern European Federation. The Eastern European Federation will start attacking Poland and getting ready to attack Romania. This will deal a great big blow in the European battle plan. Now, we must engage in the true battle mode. Now that we are engaged in the true battle mode, let's see what happens next. After years of struggle, the Philippines will be battled. The blue team will eventually manage to get the Philippines. Great work. Over here in Central America, the Mexicans would push through, and they will start their invasion of Central America, or Southern America. The rebellions up here get put down, and Ireland is forced to surrender, as well as Iceland gets their butts kicked. Switzerland changes sides, and Italy gets invaded. A bunch of nations get crushed here in the Baltic campaign. British troops manage to do a little bit more of a push. All the Russian troops are coming in to try to reinforce the front. Portugal gets invaded in Spanish, and the Algerians start to invade Africa. Poland gets more invaded, and they're eventually forced to surrender. Oh geez, my pet alien cat is trying to help with the episode. Down the line. Over in the Caucasus, the blue team manages to whoop their butts, but in Arabia, the red team tries to take an offensive here, and they are trying to capture the capital of Egypt, but also managed to strike some pretty good things down in the south. Arabia is trying to unify itself under the red team. India didn't learn their lesson, and now they're getting invaded from a bunch of different directions. We all know where this is going. In a matter of months, they would eventually get grinded down and eliminated. But in Africa, we will have more developments happening, as South Africa is deciding to help with the Great Push. They had great aid beforehand, so now they will begin to push up into Southern Africa, trying to help end the war and hoping to get some good war score built up. Argentina does another blow to the South Americans as they start to push into Brazil, and quite heavily. Chile gets demolished, and they no longer exist. In fact, they have been fully invaded, and Paraguay is also forced to surrender. But now the resistance is fierce. Argentina needs to hope for backup to happen. The backup is trying to come down. And even though there is the Amazon rainforest with the alienese technologies that will make great strides at invading, I would know, since I've used it before, to go up and demote Peru from one side to the other. Bolivia falls, and now it's just a giant empire, and Argentina versus Brazil. But we all know how the cookie crumbles, and Brazil would be out of here. 2 whole continents are united under the blue team. Actually 3, technically. Let's see how the rest of this plays out. Egypt will kick the Arabians back, and now there's going to be a fight in Arabia. In Europe, the Baltics get demolished, and Ukraine gets all invaded. Italy also gets invaded, and the Russian reinforcements are here, and Sweden and Norway are also out. And now the Mexicans are trying to aid troops in Africa. We're trying to send troops to Africa. Over in Central Asia, the Russians will start pushing in. The Chinese and the recently independent or semi-independent Turks will start pushing through and causing major blows. Kazakhstan isn't that deadly, so they'll be forced to surrender. And there's no way in the world they would win. Here we have a special case, which is Afghanistan. They could kick everybody out, and that's what they're gonna do. There's nothing you can do about Afghanistan. Afghanistan will always be Afghanistan. We see Ethiopia getting more invaded, and they're also forced to surrender. Somalia gets aided heavily, and they managed to get hit. They managed to link up and knock more countries out of this war. Pretty great job. Africa is looking secure towards the blue team, but not just yet. As a secret operation would happen where they try to go into the capital. They push out and do a giant spearhead. They would go up, but before they could get the capital, they would get knocked back. Africa isn't going too well for either side here. Egypt keeps trying, almost losing its capital, but it hasn't yet, so good job. Mexican reinforcements are here, and Africa is now gonna get their butts whooped. And we all know where this is going, so all these countries surrender. There's no reason not to. And all these countries would get invaded to try to survive, but they all get invaded and they all die out. You're over here, and the blue team just goes significantly in on this with all the troops. And naval invasion begins here, and they take all of Arabia. There's only one country left, and that's Afghanistan, which is trying to hold out for its dear life. But they will go with the biggest fight ever. Also, I forgot to recolor these islands, and there we go, much better. We will have the biggest battle of all time, the battle for Afghanistan. Troops will push in, but remember, the Afghans are very great at defending themselves, so these attempts will be thwarted, and they would get knocked right back out of the border. We have a larger force coming in here from the Arabian front. They would get decently far in, but then eventually get kicked back out because the Afghans know how to keep themselves safe. They would try an even bigger land invasion from Pakistan down in the south, and they would go decent, but then they'd get propelled right back to the border. It seems like nobody can invade Afghanistan, which is inconvenient, so they only have one last choice, and that is to deploy the Death Laser. They would ask Japan to deploy the Death Laser. They break their intelligence, and people realize the time is up. The Death Laser gets used, and Afghanistan is forced to surrender. We will now go back, and you will see the peace deal in the next season, which will hopefully come out next summer. So keep waiting, guys. It's gonna happen.